Along my fitness journey after I was consistently going to the gym for a few years, I found that my progress just really started to kind of stagnate at a certain point. And it just felt like I was going to the gym not because I wanted to, but just because it was something which was kind of just like a box I had to get ticked off throughout the day. And it was just a process which I just felt like I had to do. And I actually got to the point where I felt like I wasn't motivated to keep going, and I just completely plateaued with my progress. I wasn't excited and I wasn't like enjoying going to the gym. It wasn't something I looked forward to anymore. And so this is a step along the process on my gym journey where I just really didn't start to make any gains at all. I was just kind of maintaining muscle, the exact muscle that I'd already put on, and I just wasn't actually progressing to the next level, and I wasn't really actually improving the amount of muscle I had, wasn't improving my body composition or my physique, and I just really kind of like plateaued and just stayed in the same position I was for like almost over a year, just like that. So in this video, I want to actually go over what to happen, what you can do if it happens that you actually get into a process where you're in a plateau and you're consistently just kind of maintaining muscle growth, but you're not really putting on muscle, or you're not putting on muscle to the extent that you want to be, and you feel like you could be doing it a lot quicker and easier. So I want to go over exactly how you can do that in this video. So the first point, which is kind of frustrating, is that a lot of the advice you get around this is just kind of conventional, and it's actually not really helpful. Because a lot of people, especially fitness influencers online, just talk about how if you want to actually build on muscle, you just have to force yourself to eat, and just eat like 4,000 calories a day, 5,000 calories a day, and just kind of like stuff your mouth with food, just to kind of force yourself to get those calories in, to force yourself to grow, and that's going to help you put on muscle. And although actually this will actually help you put on weight, it doesn't actually correlate into putting on more muscle. If you're someone who's dirty bulking and you're just eating whatever you want, you're going out and you're eating fast food, or you're just not actually tracking your macros, you're just trying to like stuff your mouth with food and try and get to like a 4,000 calorie a day target, this is actually just going to lead to you putting on a ton of fat and only like a very small amount of muscle. So this is the problem with a lot of people, these fitness influencers online, where they're promoting how to get bigger quickly. They just tell you to eat and eat and eat. It actually really doesn't work like that. Because if you actually want to put on more muscle, eating more is not going to really solve that if you're already hitting the amount of calories where you're at maintenance or you're in a slight surplus. You only actually need to be at maintenance or slightly above this, what's called a slight calorie surplus, for you to be putting on the maximum amount of muscle possible for your body. So anything above this where you're dirty bulking and you're eating like an excess of 500-600 calories a day above your maintenance levels, thinking that this is going to help you put on more muscle, it's actually wrong. And all of this additional calories above that slight surplus to like 500-600 a day above maintenance, all of this in between is just, you're just putting on fat. So that's kind of one thing which I found is frustrating with the fitness industry and a lot of the conventional advice you get along just putting on muscle and making progress in the gym as fast as possible. Actually just stuffing yourself with food is not actually beneficial, and it's not really going to help you at all. You're just going to put on more fat, you're not going to put on more muscle. So in addition to that, the first thing you should do if you want to actually build on muscle is you do need to make sure that you are eating at maintenance or just in a slight surplus. So this kind of feeds on to that point. Don't overdo it. Don't eat 500-600 calories above maintenance, but just figure out where kind of your maintenance level is, where you're keeping the weight the same, you're burning the amount of calories that you're consuming, and then just increase this a little bit so you're 100 to 200 calories above this. And then what's going to happen is all this weight you put on, it's all going to be muscle and hardly any of it's going to be fat. So in addition to this point here, you also need to be setting goals in the gym. This is going to lead to increasing your motivation a lot. It's going to lead to you actually being excited to go to the gym. It's just going to lead to it being something you look forward to, something you enjoy doing. So this is all really important, because if you're not motivated to go and you don't find it exciting or enjoyable, you're just not going to put on any muscle. And I found that from the process where I was kind of stagnant and I wasn't putting on any muscle, to times in my life where I was putting on the most amount of muscle in a short period of time, I found that over these periods, this is when I was actually tracking my workouts, tracking my weights, and actually really making a conscious effort to improve upon this each time I went to the gym. So this is where I was setting goals, I was setting weight targets. For example, today I was going to hit bench press of 80 kgs for 10 reps, for example, or 90 kgs for 6 reps, or just something which was just progressively better than the last time I went. And I felt that when I had this goal in mind and this purpose and reason to actually go to the gym, this was just so much more helpful for me because it was just so much more enjoyable. I was more motivated to go and I just had a lot more excitement. It was just a lot more fun to go to the gym. So that's the first thing which you should be doing. If you don't already, start setting like weekly, maybe monthly goals in the gym. These can be weight targets or how many reps you want to do on each certain set. It doesn't actually really matter, but as long as you've got goals to go to the gym that actually make you motivated to go, that's really going to help you put on muscle fast. So in addition to this point, the next point I want to talk about is exercise rotation. So if you found that you're plateauing and you're not putting on muscle, a lot of it's because you're just doing the same exercises over and over. You know, your nervous system gets used to it, and after about maybe 6 to 8 weeks, arguably it kind of depends. If you're a beginner, it might take up to 12 weeks, but maybe say between like 5 to 8 weeks. If you're just doing the same exercise routine over and over and you're not switching up the exercises, then you're just going to hit a plateau and you're not going to put on any new muscle. So one thing you can combat this is just every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, or whenever you just start plateauing on your routine and you're not putting on muscle, just switch up the exercises a bit. So for example, instead of doing an incline bench press, you might just do an incline dumbbell press, or you might switch it to incline flies, and just stick with this for 6 to 8 weeks and just see if you can progress muscle in this way. And this is just going to really help freshen up. It's going to keep your nervous system fresh. It's going to give it a new look, and it's just really going to help recruit more muscle fibers. It's also going to make you more excited to go to the gym. It's going to make things more interesting. And I've just found that when you actually change exercises and you look progressing your weight on another exercise, which is different to the one you were doing before, this is what really leads to a ton of benefit. And this is when you really start getting off that plateau and you start putting on muscle again. So exercise rotation, it's essential. Keeps you motivated and it keeps you fresh in the gym. And it's just going to lead to building more muscle fibers, giving you a different look. It's going to help you put on a ton of muscle. If you're hitting a plateau and you've looked the same for a while, it's probably because you're not changing up your workout routine. So if you want to have a look at my exact workout routine, I've put that down as a link in the description. It's got my push-pull legs routine, my upper body split, and it's also got my meal and diet plan. I'm also going to put together some modules over the coming weeks where I'm just going to go over the exact processes I went through to get from 70 kgs to where I am now, which is about 88 to 90 kgs, all muscle. And so if you want to have a look at that, that's going to be the first link in the description. So one other thing to mention, this is actually really quite key, is just you should be progressively overloading when you go to the gym. So you should be ensuring that every time you go to the gym, you need to be increasing, not every time, but maybe every week or every few weeks, you need to be increasing the actual stress and the load that your muscles are under when you're in the gym. Because this is what creates that mechanical tension and creates that stimulus, which leads to progressive muscle growth. So, for example, if you're someone who's benching 60 kg on the bench press now, in 4 to 6 weeks, if you're still putting on the same weight and you're still going through the same rep range, then you're just not going to put on any muscle because you're not forcing your body to go under any more additional stress. It's not going to create that tear and that muscle stimulus, which you need for hypertrophy. So if you're just doing this and you're keeping the weight the same, the rep range the same, you're not increasing the stress levels on your body, you're not going to put on muscle. So a way you can combat this is just each week or each second week, you can just add on 2.5 kg to the bench press and just aim to get the same amount of sets as you were last week with this new weight. Another thing which you could do is you could also, instead of increasing the weight, you could just increase the amount of reps which you're going for each set. This is another way to do that. And this is also another way which is going to help you. It's more beneficial. However, I just found that It's actually just a lot easier to track your progress. It saves time and it's more efficient if you just increase the weight every week to every second week in the gym. This is a way that you can actually guarantee that your body's going under more stress, your muscles are tearing more, you're creating that stimulus and that increased amount of tear in the muscle growth to lead to increased levels of hypertrophy. It's just by increasing the weight each time you go to the gym or each other time you go to the gym, just to make sure that it's constantly improving and you're constantly putting on more weight, you're putting on more strength and putting on more muscle. So another thing that you need to be doing is progressively overloading. Now, if you find that you can't increase the weight over time and it's just too difficult, you don't have the strength to do this, it's likely because, like I said, you're either not changing up the exercises or you're not tracking your macros properly and you might be in a calorie deficit, which is detrimental to your strength levels. So make sure that you're eating at maintenance or on a slight calorie surplus, and make sure that you're going through exercise rotations, and this is really going to help you with progressive overload, which is going to lead to more gains in the gym. So the final point which I want to make is just the level of intensity you should be training in the gym. A lot of people go there and they train and they don't actually train that hard, they don't actually push themselves. So this is a huge reason why you're not putting on muscle, because you should be really pushing yourself with each set you go into the gym. And so many people just stop when they've got like 4 or 5 additional reps that they could have done on each set. And these are actually the reps that actually really lead to more gain and more muscle growth. It's generally the final 5 reps in each set which leads to the most amount of muscle growth. This is called effective reps. So when you're at the gym, you should be training, I don't like to train to failure, but you should be training all the way up until you've got maybe 1 rep in reserve. With that last rep, you'd be like really pushing it out, it would be a grinder, and it would be tough for you to actually get that last rep up. So if you go 1 step before this, and you've got 1 rep in reserve, this is exactly where you should be training for each set in the gym. If you're not doing this, and you're stopping where you've got maybe 4 or 5 reps in reserve, you're just missing out on by far the most beneficial reps in the set range. Where these are the reps that actually lead to the most muscle growth, create the most tear. It's always the last 5 final reps of the set. So if you're leaving these on the table, you're just not going to be progressing, you're not going to be putting on muscle. So this is the last point for you. Just make sure that the reps that you're doing in the gym and the sets, you're really pushing it up until like high intensity levels. And I mean, you can go to failure as well in your last final sets during the workout. I wouldn't recommend doing this early on because you're going to fatigue yourself too much, and the remaining sets and exercises you do in your workout are going to be detrimental because of this. But you can do this in the last final sets. And apart from that, for the remaining sets and reps, really make sure you're pushing yourself to that extent, making sure you're getting these effective reps in and you're making the most of each rep. And I mean, if you go to the gym anyway, you've already got changed, you've already driven out to the gym, you're already there. So you may as well just push yourself and go that extra level of intensity, or you're just kind of like wasting your time being there. So that's the last point. Make sure that the level of intensity you're training at is really high. This is really going to help. This is going to put on a ton of muscle.